Okay, so good evening, everyone, and you're all very welcome to tonight's webinar with Sharon Courtney on fueling the body for return to our playing fields, which is next Monday night, the 26th of April, and the conversation there before off camera in the 6 counties where we've been back already since last Monday in the playing fields. So you're all very, very welcome to tonight's presentation. My name is Kieran Morty. I'm the Ulster Ladies Development Officer, and of course we all know everybody, Sharon Courtney from our playing days with Monaghan. I'll just formally introduce Monaghan legend and Donaghmoyne legend, Sharon Courtney. She's, as you all well know, she's got 19 club titles to her name. She's got 12 Ulster club titles, 5 All-Ireland titles, 4 Ulster senior inter-county titles with Monaghan, and she's got 3 All-Star awards. So she's still playing away with her club Donaghmoyne, and I don't like to say she's retired from Monaghan, but she could be coaxed back this year maybe if the conversation goes well. Professionally, Sharon's background is in sports nutrition. She's teaching in TU in Dublin in a sports management course with a particular focus on nutrition. So tonight, guys, we've got the best in the business to give a presentation. You'd all sent in questions that Sharon might preempt during the presentation, so Sharon would probably answer some of them during the presentation, folks, but if not, you can ask questions at the end, and I'll monitor the chat box and try and address them at the end of the presentation. So you're very welcome, everyone, and Sharon, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kieran, and thanks for that introduction. So yeah, guys, I've just seen that the publication going out this week in the last couple of weeks, and it was nutrition for youth, and under it was a return to play. So I kind of tried to put a narrow enough focus on it that we're looking at nutrition and hydration for our return to play. So hopefully I do cover as much information as possible in relation to this, but if there's something that isn't covered that you have a question on, and as Kieran said, he will be monitoring the chat, like if I put the focus a little bit too narrow and you have a question that hasn't been covered, do feel free to put it into the chat box. But the focus, as I said, I wanted to keep it not necessarily narrow, but put that focus on the return to play as we get back. Well, not me, I'm a little bit too old to get back next week, but as you get back to playing next week, and some of you probably are back this week. So I wanted to put the focus on that return to play. And let me move in here. There we go. So first thing what I want to do is to look about and talk about doing the basics really well, because ultimately when we talk about sports nutrition and fueling and recovery and injury prevention and that improved performance that we spoke about there, getting ready for return to play, ultimately that comes here after we get the balanced diet right. So what we need to do is discuss the basics and how do we do the basics really well. So that sits us here, and then we can start to talk about recovery, fueling, and the sports nutrition stuff. But the starting point is that balanced diet, and then we'll go, how do we add on, right, I've got training this evening, do I need to eat a little bit extra? I have a match coming up at the weekend, what do we need to do? And then we'll put that fueling, the focus on the fueling after we can nail down the basics, okay? And then after that, once we fuel, once we get that little bit of performance out of us with the training done, well then after training, we have to recover. Because you do a session, you have a couple of days off perhaps, and then but you're back at it again. So we have to get that recovery in. And as we get back into playing now over the next couple of weeks, it is going to be a shock to the system. Like, because if you're training away on your own, that's fine. But you never really push yourself as hard on your own as you do when you're on the pitch with others. So it is going to be a shock to the system. You're going to have training laid out for you. Management are going to have X, Y, or Z laid out. It will be a shock to the system. So we have to make sure that we're getting that basics, that we can go to training, fueled, recover, go again. And if we don't do that, if we don't look after the nutrition end of things, what happens is you go to training and you try to push yourself through the session and you can't, and you end up getting injured. Or if we don't recover between sessions, then you go to the next session and that's when you pick up a niggin. So we want to start here, basics well, and then move up here where we'll focus on our fuel and our recovery. So the basics, what is it? So the basics, it's your food pyramid, it's your Eat Well guide, your Eat Well plate. So Kieran mentioned those in the 6 counties. So in the north, we generally use the Eat Well guide, and ourselves down south, we'll use the food pyramid here, but they're both the exact same. And they follow the exact same principles, that we need to have a larger amount of veg and salad and cereals, breads and pastas, and that's represented here as well. You can see the 2 largest sections of this plate, but that's our basics. And I'm going to have a bit of a discussion around these now shortly, to put the focus there, the starting point, and then we'll build up. But before I put a bit of a discussion or a focus in on those, what I want you to do for me is to write down everything that you ate today. So get a pen and paper there. I'll give you a few minutes just to write down everything that you ate today. It's now 7 minutes past 8, so you've probably ate 80 or 90% of everything that you're going to eat today. So just pen and paper, stick it down, and what we'll do is we'll just use it as a reflection tool throughout the talk here. Obviously, I'm not there with you, I'll not be collecting it, so be as honest as possible so that you can get an honest reflection in. So maybe the best way to do it is breakfast, lunch and dinner. If you're at school today, your breakfast, your first break, your big break, what you had after school. So I'll give you a few minutes there to do that for me, please. Okay, so presuming we have it done. So what I want you to do is just look at that now. You have a sheet of paper in front of you, look at it and say to yourself, rate it maybe out of 10 and say, right, I'll give yourself 5 or 6. Or you might put yourself at 1, or you might say, do you know what, this is really good, I'll give myself a 10 out of 10 here. But just look at it and rate it, and just think to yourself, right, as we move through this presentation, you'll be able to maybe say, well, I did that well, I was doing that right, okay, I need to make an improvement here. But by having it in front of you, it allows you to reflect, and when you reflect, then you can make the appropriate changes. So have that, and we'll keep that to the forefront as we move forward. But I'm going to go back to our basics here, and as I said, it is the food pyramid, and has to be the starting point for what we need on a daily basis, and then we can add in our training needs on top of that. And it's really important to have a good healthy habit, and this is the healthy habits here. And for you guys that are on the call, the talk, as I said, was tailored at youth athletes, but Jesus, it's so important for you guys to get a habit, a really good habit now, because it'll stand you in good stead going forward. And take it from me and from the lot of the players that I work with, it's so hard to break bad habits. So you might think you get away with good or bad nutrition at the minute, but believe you me, when you become a senior player, you'll not get away with bad nutrition. So it's important to try and lay down the good habits now, but ultimately, as you're heading back to training, you're putting the stresses on the body. If we have the good habits now, it's going to help you to adapt to your training over the next couple of weeks as well. But if we look at the bottom of the food pyramid here, the bottom it's wider, meaning we need more of these foods. And at the bottom, it's fruit, veg, and salad. And that shelf there is packed with vitamins and minerals. You can see the colour there, and it's packed with the vitamins and minerals, which are going to help us to stay injury-free and prevent any illnesses. Because there's loads of nutrients there that will help us to stay strong and adapt to our trainings. But if you look here at the side for me, it says 5 to 7 portions per day. So we should be having 5 to 7 servings of either fruit, veg or salad on a daily basis. So the first thing, or the second task that I want you to do now is just have a look at that sheet that you wrote out for me earlier. So that sheet that you have in front of you, just go down through it and count up how many times you see fruit, veg or salad on it. Okay, so I know if I was in the room there with you and I asked for a show of hands who got at least 5 portions, very few hands would go up. And so I'm presuming you guys are the same. So if it's a case there that you're not hitting at least 5, make a note to yourself there and say, right, I need to eat more fruit and veg. Because look at what you're getting there is loads of vitamins and minerals, but also we're getting energy. And see there at the bottom of the food pyramid, we need more of these foods. They are going to provide us with energy. And considering all that we do throughout the day, we need energy for everything. And if we put our training on top of that, we definitely need to be consuming these to make sure we have the energy to train really well. If we move up the food pyramid, then the next shelf, again, a carbohydrate shelf, which is going to give us energy. And if you see here, we need 3 to 5 servings per day, and maybe more if we're active. So for you guys that are heading back to training, you are going to need at least 5 servings of these a day. So just have a look again down at your sheet and see, is there cereals there, is there breads there, is there potatoes, is there pasta, and just count them up there to see are they on your pyramid quite frequently or on your sheet quite frequently. Okay, and again, just take note of it. Maybe you need to cut back on them, or maybe you need to eat more of them. And what I'd be saying is, if you're lacking in energy, if you find yourself tired at school, tired at training, well, there's a sure sign that you're not eating enough. And to me, then I'd be saying you need to be eating these foods here, putting them into your food diary or your daily habits. So again, by reflecting on it and having the page in front of you, you'll be able to see that and you can recognize that. Now, another thing here with this shelf is it's brown, and this signifies that we should be taking brown versions of these foods. So brown breads, brown rice, brown pasta, and they are higher in fibre. And the fact that they're higher in fibre allows us, it's good for our gut, first off, but it allows us to break down those foods slower. And if we break them down slower, it's going to give us a slower, sustained release of energy. So, for example, that energy will last longer for us. And if we're talking about training and going to training with a full fuel tank, which I'll talk about shortly, that means we need these foods there that are going to give us a slow release of energy. So the food you eat across the day, you're banking it in the muscles to use later on for your training sessions or your matches. And if we move up the food pyramid, then these 2 shelves here, the yellow and the blues, they're protein shelves. And again, protein is really, really important over the next couple of weeks in particular. And when you have that shock to the system with training, training's going to damage the body. There's no doubt about it. No matter how easy or how hard it is, you're going to damage the body in some way, shape or form. So in order to repair that damage, we must ensure that we have protein in our diet. So again, look down on your sheet there for me. And all teenagers, I know it says 3 there in bigger writing, but for any of the teenagers on the call, which I think most are, you should be getting 5 portions of dairy, some milk, yogurts and cheese. Have a look on your sheet and see are you hitting 5. And then with chicken, meat, fish, at least 2 servings per day. So again, have a look at your sheet, reflect and take note if changes need to occur. And again, with protein, when I said there about repairing the body, another thing with protein is if we want to build muscle, and we all want to build muscle, because in order to play Gaelic football, it is advantageous to be strong. And in order to be strong, we need to have muscle tone, not necessarily large muscle size, but muscle tone we must have. And you will get that with your basic training on the pitch. You'll also maybe get it with some body weight exercises that perhaps your coaches lay out for you. And if you are doing, when we are doing our training, it's important to get that protein in as well to help us to become strong. And again, that will help us when we're performing as well, having that extra strength. But I'm going to come back to this 5 portions of dairy. So milk, yogurts and cheese. Protein is key here, but also calcium. And when we're younger, we are growing our bones. And you have the opportunity up until about the age of 18 to 20 to lay down the strongest bones possible. After the age of 20, you can no longer build bone. So you guys here on the call, all the under 18s, you have the opportunity now to lay down the biggest, strongest bones possible. And you're banking that for later in life, because unfortunately what happens as we get older, we start to lose bone. But the stronger your bone is now, the better it is going to be in the long term, because it's going to take you longer to lose it. And calcium, if anybody does home economics in school, you'll know this, calcium is needed for strong bones. So it is important that we get our 5 portions of dairy per day. So it might be a top tip to include milk alongside your dinner every day, because at least you know you're guaranteed you're getting 1 portion in per day anyway, and then you can work in others. But I would say take a glass of milk with your dinner would be a top tip. I'm going to jump up now to the top of the food pyramid. And top of the food pyramid, look, it's cut off there. And the reason it's cut off is because we don't need to be eating these foods every day. So our sweets, bars and crisps, etc. So maximum once or twice a week actually. So try and limit these as much as possible, but maybe have a look at your sheet now and count up how many times there's sweets, bars, crisps, fizzy drinks, etc. on it. So just have a look and count them out for me.
I have a guilty look on my face, Sharon, do
Aye, Kieran will share his. Okay, and again, if I was in the room with you there and asked who had at least 1 from the top shelf, I know most people's hand would go up, right? And that's fine, but I would have issue if your hand was up here, but you couldn't put your hand up down here. Okay, and if you're putting your hand up for here, but not here, it tells me you're eating the wrong types of foods. Okay, and I have no issue with anybody eating a bar of chocolate or crisps or whatever, but I would prefer you had them after you could tick all these boxes here. Because if you're eating these foods here, what you're doing is you're essentially filling yourself up on these foods here, but you're missing out on all the nutrients then that are down here. Okay, and I have this here which will represent it. So I have 2 meal plans here, both 2,000 calories, so equal in calories in terms of weight or anything like that. They're going to have the exact same effect. But if we take the food on this side here, what we've got is sugary breakfast cereal, white bread sandwich, crisp, fizzy drink, processed foods, white roll and biscuits. So that versus this here, we have I'm going to say scrambled egg, even though it doesn't look like scrambled egg, but we've a healthy brown bread slice there anyway. We've got a soup, we've got a curry, we've got veg as snacks, we've got fruit as snacks, we've got popcorn there. Look at equal in calories, but this side here is doing you absolutely no favours. You're going to feel like crap if you eat this, because essentially you're missing out on a whole load of nutrients. But whatever, sometimes we don't care how we feel during the day. Performance is key for some of us, and we care about how we are on the football pitch. But I'm telling you here, you're going to feel crap during the day, but you're going to feel worse when you step onto the football pitch if this is what you're eating here, because you're not getting the energy that you need. So there's no brown, high fibre energy there, so you're not putting the energy in. There's no protein there that's going to help us to adapt to our training, and there's no colour there on this side either. So you're missing all those vitamins and minerals that are going to help you stay injury free and help you to adapt to your training. So the choice is yours there, really. Look at equal amounts of food. So you'll still eat plenty, but make the better choices means you'll feel better in yourself, and then you'll perform better when it comes to training, because you have the energy in the tank that allows you to push on. And likewise here on this side here, people say to me, oh Sharon, you'll not let me eat X, Y or Z or I'll be starved. And I'm like, no, I'll let you eat plenty as long as there's plenty of good stuff. And if you take the difference here, burger and chip up top with 930 calories, but for a better choice, if you swapped out that better choice, look at all we can get that's actually equal to 930 calories. So there's 5 decent meals in place of this here. Equal calories, but what's this doing for us here? We've got the energy that's going to fill up the fuel tank to allow us to push on and train really well. We've got the protein that's going to help us to adapt to the training and recover and go again. And we've got the vitamins and minerals there that's just going to make us feel good and help us to use our protein and our carbs as well. Okay, so look, there's nothing wrong with a burger and chip, nothing wrong with a can of Coke every now and again. But I mean every now and again, because we're taking them far too often. What it just ends up in that we're missing out on the stuff that is going to make us feel good and to perform really well. So to finish up on that basics section, what does it actually look like, or how do we pull the basics together? So what I would be saying is have breakfast, lunch and dinner and snacks in between. Okay, so the 3 main meals are there and there's snacks in between. And I've just put a focus here on fruit to show you how we can get our fruit, veg and salad, to show you how we can get our fruit, veg and salad in. So the portion sizes are actually going to count up here as I go through this. So with better choices, I'm telling you, it's easy to get your fruit, veg and salad in your 5 to 7 portions. So orange juice in the morning, breakfast cereal with some dried fruit. So there with 1.5 portions of fruit in the morning. Move on to our mid-morning snack. We have, look at yogurt for protein and our dairy, but we have our banana there, so there's another portion. Our lunch, we have soup, which is going to give us a portion. And I've robbed these images, but I would have put salad on that sandwich there, which would have given me another portion. So we'd be well over halfway of what we need. And then if we take our dinner, and this is a top tip for any parents here that can't get their children to eat veg, stuff it in the food. So there's your lasagna full of veg. If you're mixing up a bolognese sauce, blitz in loads of vegetables, and it's an easy way to get in veg. And then we've a salad there, so there's 2 portions. I think that's all I put on that. But 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, plus I would have had more on my sandwich. 6.5 portions of fruit and veg there. And I think that was pretty easy. So what I'd be saying is, if we make better food choices and make a conscious food choice, we can hit these targets. And I think by writing down your food diary every so often and having a look at it, it will allow you to reflect and make the changes. And hopefully after seeing the food pyramid and after that wee bit of chat, you'll be able to nail the basics. And I think it's easy. We can do it. It's just forming that habit and we can nail the basics. But from there, what I want to do then is move on. Nice working. Is move on and pull in our water. So water, aside from the food, hydration, being hydrated is a basic as well. So we must be hydrated on a daily basis. And the reason we must be hydrated is if you look here at all these things, our body is made up of a large percentage of water, so it says 7% there, but take our brain, lungs, bones, etc. They're all made up of water, and if we're dehydrated then, we're losing water from these body parts, and if we lose water from them, they're not going to perform as you would like. So any of you that are at school at the minute, if you're dehydrated at school, what happens is you lose water from the brain, which means that you're not going to get the blood up around the brain, and you'll not be able to concentrate. So it actually is known that if you're dehydrated at school, you don't retain as much information, and it has knock-on effects on your results and your marks in exams. So there's the top tip I would be saying, is to have the water bottle or a glass of water beside you at all times, but just carry the water bottle. It's another basic, and get into the habit of doing it. If we take our sport, And our performance, if we take our muscles, for example, 75% water, if we again lose body water, which most of us are dehydrated a lot of the time, so you are probably in this category very, very quickly. If we're dehydrated there in our muscle will shrivel up, and if it shrivels up, it's not going to perform at its best. So if you try to sprint with a dehydrated muscle, you increase your chance of injury. You kick the ball with a dehydrated muscle, one, it won't go as far because you've lost some of your strength, and you increase your risk of being injured as well as a result of the power of the kick. So how much do we need? And it's there, and it says 8 glasses. It's different for everybody. Some people might only need 4 glasses, some people might need 10, and you can manage this yourself. So every time you go to the toilet, have a look at the colour of your urine. So just have a look, and what we're aiming for is clear to pale yellow. So 1, 2 or 3 indicates that you're hydrated, and anything darker then indicates that you're dehydrated. Now, first thing in the morning, it will be quite dark, your urine, which is natural because we've done a lot of filtration at night. But throughout the day, then you're aiming for 1, 2 or 3, and that means you're hydrated. So what I'd be saying is get into the habit of carrying the water bottle, and if you note that your urine is a little bit dark, just take the water on board. And I know when you go back to training, you know, the weather is getting warm, you can slip into being dehydrated very, very quickly. So carry the water bottle to train and have it, obviously, have it personalised with your own name on it, and use the breaks at training instead of going and chit-chatting in the corner. Grab your bottle and then chit-chat. But just keep sipping away at the water throughout training as well, and that will keep you hydrated. And that's another basic that we need to try and master, and a really, really good habit to take forward. So now, once we nail the basics, we can move up that pyramid that I had at the start, and we can start to focus in on that fueling. And you're probably thinking, was she not talking about fueling already? Well, I kind of was, but that was fueling for your day-to-day, and you need energy for everything we do across the day. But now I want to put the focus, right, getting back to training, we must fuel. And if you take, if you take that race car there in front of you, a race car before it steps onto the track, if you see the Grand Prix, they're just going round and round and round and round, that race car is going to have a full fuel tank before it starts. And the reason it's going to have a full fuel tank is so that it'll allow it to go for longer. And when it starts to run out of fuel, it comes in for a pit stop so that it can refuel and go, and again, keeps it going for longer. And our bodies are exactly the same. We need to think, every time I go to training, my fuel tank must be full. And the reason my fuel tank must be full is because I want to be able to give my best effort for the full 60 or hour and a half of training. Okay? So fuel tank full equals being able to perform and push yourself for the hour or an hour and a half. Half full fuel tank means that, okay, halfway through training, the legs are heavy and tired and you can't push on. And then you end up risking injury. And not only risking injury, you don't get as fit as you would like because you weren't able to push on in the training session. And the people that are fueled, they'll push on for that full 60 minutes. They'll come again the next night, they'll push on, and they'll gradually get fitter. But if you're constantly under-fueled, you'll not get fit because you're not able to push yourself in the trainings. And just like this race car here in front of me, if we put the wrong fuel in that car, it won't go as you would like. So if you put diesel in a petrol tank, it won't go. And likewise, our bodies, if we put the wrong fuel into us, we won't go. But our fuel is food, and particularly carbohydrates. And carbs are our main source of energy. So if we go back to the basics there that we spoke about in the bottom of the food pyramid, it was the fruit and veg, and it was the bread, cereals and pastas. And you can see them there on the side. And they're our source of energy. So we needed them, they were at the bottom, we need to eat them, more of them. And if we take you guys here that's on the call, why do you need energy? And I've kind of been saying this throughout, but to concentrate at school. You're sitting in the classroom there, like if you don't have energy, you're not going to concentrate because that requires energy. To train, that requires energy, obviously, and to perform, to be able to push on in your training. And performance is high intensity, or maybe being able to go for longer. That's your performance end of things. So you need the extra energy for that. But you guys as well to grow. Like, you're all growing, teenagers are all growing, so Jesus, you have to have the energy available to you. Make sure you're eating these foods and nail the basics, and you'll be getting them in, and that means you have the energy to grow and train, etc. on top of that. And things to look out for if, and I know we'll have a lot of girls on the call here, like if it's a case that maybe you're losing a menstrual cycle or you're missing a period, etc., that could be a sign that you're not eating enough. And because it's deemed a non-essential, it is essential, but your body sees a monthly bleed or a period as non-essential. And if we're not giving it enough energy, so we're not fueling enough, that will shut down that body system. Now, that is not a good thing. So maybe somebody who's on the call there might recognize that in yourself and say, Jesus, I need to be eating more here. And that's a sign for you. But look at all these things, you need to be having enough there to tick off all of those. And the top tip would be just base your meals on those foods. Base your meals on your carbs, which are here, and have colour on each plate. And we can manipulate these too, which I'm going to talk about now. We can manipulate these on our plates depending on a training day or a rest day. So when we're talking now about our fueling, how do we alter for our training? And if you take a plate here, like so, on a rest day or maybe a light training day, you might only, you're only going for a wee kickabout or whatever, and it's not going to require too much energy. Your plate across that day might be loads of fruit and veg, with loads of colour there, and a small amount of carbs. And look, our protein. Protein's there, so it must be on every plate as well. Protein, a quarter of the plate, loads of colour, and our carbs. So there's, look at how much energy is on that plate. Well, it's all energy, but look at our carbs, which is our main source of energy, is here. And then if we have a training day, so we definitely train on this day, hard enough or moderate training, what we do is we cut back on a wee bit of the veg, but we eat more of these, okay? So we start to eat more grains, pasta, rice, cereals, etc. But look at my protein, it's still consistent, it's still there. It doesn't change, it's always present. But we manipulate these two a wee bit to ensure that we're eating more of these starchy carbs here. And then if, right, training is really hard, or perhaps you're really busy at school, active at school, and then heading to training, you need to think, right, well, I definitely need more energy. So what you do there is you manipulate these again. We've got extra carbs here, more than half the plate carbs. We've still got colour, but it's less, and your protein is consistent, okay? And I know this is a plate, and it represents maybe a dinner plate, but I'm talking about your meals across the whole day. So on a training day, think about all your meals that day. Is there extra starchy carbs in it? So it might be, and I have an example here, for breakfast in the morning, this here will represent a blue day. So it's a bowl of Weetabix with a banana. So never miss an opportunity to get some colour on your plate. So here we have our banana in with our Weetabix. So Weetabix is carbs, the banana is your colour, and the milk is going to tick the box for protein. So we've got that. If it's a training day, it's going to be, we know we need a little bit of extra energy. We might just shake it up and go with a bigger bowl of porridge. Now, there's no reason a bowl of porridge couldn't sit here, but this is a bigger bowl. So I'm trying to represent a bigger bowl here, so we're getting more carbs in. So extra carbs there, and we've still got our colour and we've still got our protein in the milk there. But if we're moving into this red category, this is what it looks like here. This is overnight oats, so it's a big slap of it. So a big slap of overnight oats there. Again, carbs. We've got fruit, which is our colour. There's peanut butter there, which is protein. And we've put a slice of bread alongside it, okay? So if you look, we've moved through the phases here. This small one here represents the carbs. We needed more carbs, and we've got them here. And then we needed extra carbs, and we've got them here with the slice of toast as extra. Okay? So you guys think of your basics. You've nailed down your basics, but now I'm manipulating it a wee bit to make sure I'm fueling. I'm getting extra in there to put the fuel in the tank. okay? So that's how we can work it in. But that's fine, and I said the basics, but right, I have training, I have a match, what do I actually need? How do I pull this together? And just think about, well, what is my goal? Your goal is to fuel, okay? So top up the fuel stores pre-exercise. And like you're asked then, well, how do I do it? And you know the answer to this. The answer is, if carbohydrates are my energy source, well, then I need to get carbs in pre-exercise. And the guidelines are to eat a large meal about 3 hours before the training or the match. So if training's at 7, try and have your last big meal about 4 o'clock. And that meal should be carbohydrate based. So we know carbs are fuel, so of course we're getting that in there. And just look at the foods here. Really, really simple, nothing fancy. Chicken and pasta, potatoes and beans and sandwich. We look at all these. Pasta is the carbs. Potatoes is the carbs, the bread here in your sandwich is the carbs, but never miss an opportunity to get protein in. There's chicken, there's beans, there's some tuna or ham on your sandwich, carbs and proteins, but it is mainly carbohydrates. And look, I know it's not always realistic that, right, training to 7, I'm eating at 4. Look, if you eat 2 hours beforehand, that's fine, but you may eat less. Because you can't stomach it. 3 hours is only really a number to make sure that you're not going to cramp up during the match or training, but some people will be able to eat a large meal 2 hours beforehand. It would be no issue. But if it's a case then we're getting closer to the match and we're always hungry, well, I'm always hungry, you're looking for that lighter snack in the final hour. So in the lead into the match, you're saying, right, well, I'll just top up here. And here you're looking for something that's easily digestible, but it's still carbs. And some good examples there are fruit, milk, cereal bars. So something that is not only quick and easy, but easy as in that it's easily digestible. And it's not going to cause stomach cramps when you start running. But all those foods that are listed there, they're carbs, they're ticking the box first, and you'll hopefully have them digested in time. But the big thing here is you're doing this all the time. Your whole day, we've got that fueling process going because you've nailed down the habit. Remember the basics that I said, you've nailed down the basics. This is just the added extra then to make sure that you go to training, full fuel tank, push on at training, get fitter and faster as a result of being able to push on. And you decrease your risk of injury because you're fueled and you're not going to strain yourself in your training sessions. And then once we have our fueling, our pre-exercise meal, and then we go training, as I said at the start, don't forget about your recovery then. Okay, so don't forget about recovery and think post-exercise, right? Well, what do I need to do after exercise? How do I recover? And what I'm going to go through here is the 3 hours of recovery essentially, but the first one is rehydrate. So get those fluids back into you. Start with the water, and hopefully you've been drinking the water throughout your sessions, but start with the water. And what that's going to do is going to enhance any refueling or repair, which I'll speak about now in a second. But you're going to enhance that because fluids around the body, blood, greater blood flow, and it'll help that refueling or recovery process, as we said. That refuel then, so think about, right, today is Wednesday. Isn't it? Yeah, today is Wednesday. So let's say you've done a training session today, and then you're training again on Friday. What you need to think about is, right, tough session tonight. I probably won't be recovered. I mightn't be recovered by Friday. And you actually won't be recovered unless you get carbohydrates back into you. So think post-exercise, start that refueling straight away. Okay, so refuel with carbs post-exercise. So get them in there and then rebuild with protein. So again, in that recovery phase, get some protein into us. It's going to repair any muscle damage and it'll promote adaptation. So what I mean by adaptation there is getting stronger as a result of the training that you're after doing. So get the protein in there. And then you say, well, how do we do that? Eat. You eat and make sure you have those foods there. So consume a meal or snack with your carbs, your proteins and your fluids there, but get it in ASAP after exercise. So if you're training and you're not home to 9:30, it's really important to still get something into you. Don't be thinking it's too late. It's not too late. So get something into it to enhance that recovery. And food-wise, high carbs, moderate amount of protein. So again, those two are prevalent, and they're ticking the box first in terms of refueling and rebuilding. And again, look at the foods, nothing fancy. Potatoes, chicken and veg will tick the box for scrambled eggs and toast. If you're coming home from training late and you don't feel like you can't stomach something, maybe mix up a smoothie, which is has a mix of carbs and protein in it. So Sinead Delahunty has been running some recipes on the LGFA website. She had an oat and berry smoothie, I think, in week 1. So that would tick a box for you in terms of recovery nutrition. But look at, again, find something that works for you and try and get it in ASAP. And depending on what you're doing, it might be, if you know you're not going to get something, if you could be in the car or going somewhere after training, have a snack with you and then follow it up with a meal if you can, or if you get a meal straight away, that's even better again. But try and find something that will work for you. And then to pull it all together, here's a sample meal plan. And the key thing I want you to pull out from this is look at the consistency of eating: breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack or after school snack, dinner and supper. So we're eating 6 times per day there. And then look at the food that's on it. Cereal with milk, and it doesn't have to be low fat. I just robbed this. It doesn't have to be low fat milk, but cereal and milk, we've got our fruit there. So look at cereal as your carbs, the milk is the protein, and your fruit there. This is designed for teenagers. So again, you may look to maybe mimic some of this. There's a slice of toast there as well. Snack, we've got yogurt, which is protein, and we've got our fruits. We're ticking that box first. And lunchtime, we've got a sandwich with tuna and sweet corn. So again, we've got that mix of carbs and proteins, and that follows throughout the day. Carbs, protein, and colour on each plate. And that's what you're looking for. But look at the consistency of eating there 6 times per day. And that's the basics with the bit of fueling in on top of it. And if we can do that, do our basics really well, put the extra focus on fueling on the days that we need it, and the recovery as well, don't forget about it, that's when it's going to lead to a decreased injury risk and an increased performance, which, if I remember correctly, was in Kieran's bio when he put out for this presentation. He did mention an increase in decreased injury risk and increased performance for a return to play. And those are the things there. And what I would say is, yes, we're going to stress the body when we get back training. So it's really, really important to implement these. But another side of it, it's really important to implement them anyway for our good health, but also to help form the good habits, which you're going to need as hopefully a lot of you will progress in your football careers and become senior footballers. You're going to need to have the good habits. So hopefully that was useful for you and you got some good information there. I don't know how time-wise, we're 8:45. I'm happy to answer any questions there, Kieran, if there's any come in.
Yeah, I'll just keep a wee monitor on the chat function at the minute. There's nothing at the minute, but maybe people are thinking of you, Sharon. Just probably one thing as well, in terms of, just to touch on, I know it's not part of tonight's talk in terms of nutrition, but sleep is very, very important for young girls as well, isn't it? And any athlete, Sharon, after, like as you say, they come back from it's a heavy load of a training session, they're getting that fuel in the, that 30-minute window. Then some girls maybe are studying late at night, Sharon. That wouldn't be recommended, would you? Could you give them any just a wee bit of tips in terms of how important sleep is in part of your training program?
Yeah, sleep is so important, and probably even more so for you guys that are still growing. We do a lot of our growth and recovery at night time, and if you're not sleeping, you're not enhancing your growth or recovery. So if you're neglecting that, there is going to be an impact on your day-to-day life and on your performance on the pitch. So it is advisable that you get 7 to 9 hours on a daily basis. And actually for you guys that are teenagers, I'd be pushing you out to the 9-hour window to try and hit that consistently. So a few things on that would be to maybe get off the phone, switch the phone off for an hour before you go to bed. And you've probably heard this before, but it is actually factual that with the blue light that's emitted from the phone, it can make you more alert and keep you awake. So it is advisable to shut the phone off for an hour before bed, and it'll help your sleep. But as Kieran said there, yeah, really important for growth, repair and recovery, because it all takes place at night.
Just a lot of thank yous coming in, Sharon. There's one question, sorry, just is it more effective to speak with the parents of juvenile players or make it fun with the players and dropping hints during training sessions?
A bit of both, I think. There's probably no harm in getting the parents involved in an education session like this, or see that food pyramid. It's that I had shown. It's easily downloadable from online, or actually you can go on to helppromotion.ie and they'll send you out free leaflets. So it could be no harm to have them lying around the club, or maybe send them home with the children, and the children will hand it over to the parents, and the parents will be able to pull bits of information from it. But ultimately it is the parents that do the shopping and the cooking, the majority of it anyway in the household. So I think it is important to have the parents involved. With the players then themselves, drop hints. Just say, look guys, really tough session tonight, make sure you get something into you now when you get home. Or, right, with a match coming up now on Saturday, make sure you're eating really well between now and Saturday. And then maybe give a couple of examples of the types of foods that they could be eating. But I think you need to kind of target both, because it is the parents that do the shopping and the cooking.
Yeah. You, Sharon? I think that's all that's come in, Sharon. It's just one question. Is Sharon available to speak to clubs?
I just had to open
so,
that.
Yeah, saying that Sharon's a busy woman, but we're not.
Yeah, look, if you're looking, we email was on the front there, but you can contact Lynn or Kieran if you're looking an email address.
We can get the email that to that coach if you want to email us directly. And get that sorted tomorrow if you want to do that. Thank you. Just monitoring one more here, Sharon. Any tips, Sharon, to encourage fussy eaters in the house who maybe wouldn't be getting their carbohydrates or proteins in them before or after training?
What I probably would say is try and put the wee bit of focus on performance, or like players or kids want to play well, and when they're at training they want to, I know it's all fun, but there's fun in being competitive and fun in being first in a race or whatever. So what I'd be saying is put the focus back on, right, this food will do this for you. And say you need to be getting, it's really good to get to this type of food because that's going to give you the energy to train well. Or choose this food because this is going to make you strong or whatever. So I would be shifting the focus a wee bit back to what it's going to do for them on the football field. And another thing would be try to chat with the child and maybe come up with meals that they would like to eat, and let them have a role to play in the cooking or the meal planning. And maybe you'll be able to encourage them to try foods that way, if they have a little bit more control of it, rather than it being a fight or a struggle all the time.
Thank you. Just looking at a few more here, Sharon. Just a few thank yous coming in. Thank yous. Yeah, David, the recording will be available over the next few days on the LGFA YouTube channel. That'll be up, I would say, by if not Friday, we'll start next week. Yeah, just thank yous coming in, Sharon. Sharon, can I, on behalf of the LGFA, thank you for giving up your time to come on tonight and speak on such an important topic, because a lot of coaches don't maybe talk about diet and nutrition and as part of the training plan. It's the on-field stuff, but the off-field stuff, as you say, Sharon, nutrition, your sleep, everything is all linked together, and it's all very critical for an athlete to perform to the best of their ability on the field. So, kind of thank you very, very much for coming tonight. Best of luck in your own club season, and best of luck to everybody on the call tonight with their games getting back next.
I see one more question I might answer to come in
Sorry,
the Q&A. It was about young girls looking at their weight and how do you encourage them to eat. It probably is very relevant to the group that we have, so I might take that. What I'd be saying is maybe a wee bit of education around nutrition would go a long way. And for any of the girls maybe that's on the call here, if you eat the correct foods, i.e. those at the bottom of the food pyramid, you have to eat quite a lot in order to put on weight. So you will be eating them and getting your fuel and whatnot out of it. But you have to eat quite a lot in order for it to have effects on your weight, because it's all good, nutritious, low-calorie food, essentially. So a wee bit of education for that individual will go a long way. And thank you, Kieran. Yeah, hopefully club season will start soon enough.
Yeah.